I just wanted to talk a little bit more about how I became a classic gamer, or became involved in classic gaming, and became interested in classic gaming when I first realized that I was a classic gamer. Probably I had a Nintendo and I had an Atari, and I think, and at the time Nintendo, this was probably in the early 1990s, probably 1990, and I realized that I still enjoyed playing my Atari a lot, and would use it just as much. And what I realized back in those days is the Nintendo games I could play, because they were longer games. For example, Mario, and had games like Jackal and Jaws and Excite Bike on the Nintendo, and I would play those a lot. Another genre of games I was into was wrestling games. One of the wrestling games I spent hours playing was one of the original WrestleManias with Hogan and Andre the Giant, and to this now probably was a genre of games that I like playing in the on the PlayStation 2. But I guess it was around the 90s. I was still playing the classic games. I had a desk full of systems. I had a Commodore VIC-20 with a tape drive where you could write games out of a book of the basic programming code and type that in and make a game out of that and record and save it to a tape. I only did that probably once because it took a long time to do that, and I didn't know about copy or paste. I don't even know if they had that back then, or how to correct the line. I just remember it taking a long time to do all that, but I was very interested in that and just wanted to do that sort of stuff. But I think when I went up to the Sega and started playing Sega a lot, but one of the things I think I might have been a year or so not playing Atari as much, but then I discovered with my Sega Genesis that I could plug my Sega Genesis gamepad, because I was breaking a lot of those Atari controllers. I think that's why I probably stopped playing Atari a lot, was because I would turn hard. I get so stressed and try to turn the game so hard I'd end up breaking the joystick. But when I discovered that I could plug a Sega Genesis controller into the Atari, or pretty much any of those old systems, a Commodore or computer, or they had the same kind of plug, so you could plug them into a lot of those older game systems. With Commodore, I had hundreds of games for that. I probably had over 100 games for my Atari. So anyway, I just kept coming back to those games and enjoyed playing them. But at one point in my life, I had to make the decision: do I own my stuff, or does my stuff own me? And I ended up, and I spent a long time, years, thinking about this, and thinking, could I sell my Atari stuff off on eBay or get rid of it? To make a long story short, I ended up selling my Atari 7800 with most of the library of games that I've acquired to a friend of mine, who he was drooling when I was setting the stuff up and showing him how to get it working and how to get the proper kind of connection to hook it up to your TV and all that. Anyway, so and that was this is probably 4 or 5 years ago now, and we actually had a great time when I sold this, because he was inviting everyone over to play Atari. It was like 20 years earlier at a friend's house when we'd all go over and play Atari games for hours. It was just a big novelty for us to go over to his house and play Atari. So I sold him my games, but I really got a lot of enjoyment playing all these games in a group setting. And I still can, except for the fact that after a year or so, he broke my Atari 7800, which is rare, and especially I warned him about the plug for the Atari 7800, because that plug, I've never seen a plug like that. I don't know if you could find another one like that. I guess you probably could on the internet, but they're hard to replace. I got one of these things here, and you can't even get an Atari 7800 to really work. Well, maybe somebody out there knows how to and can email me how to do that on an Atari 7800. But it has that weird jack that I've only seen once, and to find a replacement for that. But that's not what broke. I don't know what broke on it, but yeah, the Atari 7800 was. I got a lot of hours on that game system. But the thing that really disappointed me about Nintendo, the NES, is that little. I'd be playing it for about an hour, and then it'd just flash on and off, and it wouldn't work anymore. I don't know what was the problem. I tried cleaning it out with alcohol and all that sort of stuff, but it still didn't work. I really wish there was like a top loader instead of with that thing that the original NES had, just sort of a top loader cartridge thing, because I still play my Sega Genesis. That thing's still kicking. Yes, Genesis is still kicking it, you know. But anyway, I say anyway a lot. I know that. So yeah, I went to talking about my how I got into classic gaming, and I just sort of I just kind of winged my first video. I never done one of these YouTube in front of a camera blogs before, and thought, well, that's something I gotta respond on. Anyway, my other computer, the webcam is not the greatest. It's probably not the greatest. Well, this webcam's not the greatest on this phone either. With the lighting, but maybe it works better, because I remember I looked back at that first video and the sound sucked. So I'll try it on. I'm actually just winging it here and trying it on this phone to see if it's any better. After thinking about it for a day. So yeah, so that's all I had to say about that. And thank you.